It's Captain Sandy, and welcome to Beyond the Docks. Here, we explore real-time maritime careers with people who live them. So let's get started.
Hi everybody, this is Liz Schmidt, Executive Director of Captain Sandy's Charities. I'm here with Tim Hamilton, Director of Lürssen Yachts Americas. So great to be here this afternoon, thanks. So tell me a little bit about Lürssen Yachts. What type of vessels do they build, size, that sort of thing?
Well, Lurssen, of course, we're known for building the world's largest yachts. We build approximately 3 yachts a year we deliver. Our range is somewhere between 65 meters, so let's call it 215 feet, somewhere in there, to we really don't have a maximum size limit we've run into yet. So that is the side of the business focused on yachts. We have a whole nother company called NVL, Naval Vessels Lurssen, and in NVL we build defense ships for navies around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's really interesting. I did not know that Lurssen had that whole side. Well, tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get into the world of yachting? And how did you get to be here at this point sitting in this chair with us?
Well, I love boats. So I grew up in Florida, up in the Gulf of Mexico in the Panhandle. And so I always grew up around boats. I had a captain's license whenever I was young. I ran parasail boats. And a 130-foot West ship named Lady Val pulled into my hometown, and I was just like awestruck. I was like, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So I was literally driving a parasail boat, and I followed the boat and ended up meeting the owner, and he was like, if I could start over my career, I would work in the yachting business. And it was a light bulb moment for me. I was like, absolutely. It's like, I love boats, I love the water. I'd love to have a career working around boats. And so I've been super fortunate and frankly lucky with my career that I'm here working with Lurssen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really cool. So it sounds like you started out working with getting your captain's license and really getting some professional experience working on boats or around, and then kind of worked your way up into the industry. Would you recommend any particular courses or any particular type of education that someone might take to be able to work for a shipbuilder?
Well, there's a whole lot of different skill sets that a shipbuilder needs, right? A shipbuilder obviously needs business people like myself. So I studied business, and frankly, if I could give my younger self advice, I would say don't study business. That's a waste of time. I should have, and I wish I had studied naval architecture. I am really good with math. Math is like I have a mathematical and engineering mind. And so I would have loved the study of naval architecture. I still love it to this day. And even if the job that I do doesn't use naval architecture, I have that skill set in my tool chest, right, to be able to use. But shipyards have so many requirements, right? We have naval architects and marine engineers and mechanical engineers. But in addition to that, we have accountants and we have welders and painters and pipe fitters and carpentry people. We have electricians. So we have so many disciplines that are required within a shipyard. So you could study not just in college or university, but you could also study in trade school, like so many different skill sets, and work in the marine industry.
Yeah, I know the industry is just like infinite, almost, the amount of different jobs or trades or things like that you can do. When we take a look at a vessel, there's so many different components to that, and each one of those components like needs an expert to be able to solve the problem or to build it out. And so there's so many really great things that one can do within the industry.
Absolutely, and I'd say it's for our pipe fitters, for instance, you know the guys that are bending and shaping and forming the piping systems that are so complex in these vessels. They take a lot of pride in their work. Many of them will work for us for 20 plus years, placing the pipes. And you go and chat with them, and first of all, they say, "Look, I literally build the world's best pipes," which I love that. And they're like, "My pipes are so good that like the tech leaders and the royal rulers from around the world come here to buy our vessels because I'm building the world's best pipes." And I love that, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of pride in their craftsmanship and the work they're doing.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful to see. It's like art at the end of the day, right? They're these guys and they're working on bending pipes or putting in like electricity in the vessel, and they're just creating art at the same time. Absolutely. Yep. What would you say are some common misconceptions about the work that you do or your day-to-day that someone from the outside might have an opinion or an idea but isn't necessarily true about your job?
Well, I think with any career you go into, you have to really care about it, because in the end, work is still work. And so, you know, it's not glamorous. I think that there might be a perception that, you know, someone in my role is spending time hanging out on yachts with billionaires, going to boat shows. Yes, that's a part of my job, but I spend a majority of my time either traveling to see clients, traveling to the shipyard, or here in the office. And in the end, it's a job that I just have to do every day and work a lot of hours and stay very focused on it. What helps me is that I really love it. I love building yachts. I love building things, and I love boats. So the combination is awesome. And so that passion makes it not really, most days it's not work. Most days it really is a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your favorite part of your job?
I think the idea that you talk with somebody, you know, in the very beginning about what their ideas are, what they want to see in their boat, and then 4, 5, 6 years later, the boat is delivered. You know, this vessel right here was just that story, right? She just sat on the docks right there a few weeks back, and it's such pride for me. So
that has to be really cool. I mean, your office here at Pier 66 in Fort Lauderdale with the docks and some of the largest super yachts that come in, you get to see these boats, right, that you get to help with the process of the build, and to see them come into the docks, I'm sure that is such a great feeling. How's your career evolved over time?
From that first conversation I had with the owner of Lady Val, I went first and worked on boats. And I still would say that it was probably the most invaluable experience, and I could recommend that to anybody that wants to work in the marine industry. Mm-hmm. If you want to be on the craftsman side, building, or on the business side, go and work on the boat so you understand the product that you're building and the experience that we're creating. So that was the first step, right? I worked on some big boats in the Mediterranean, in the Caribbean, and then from there, I landed my first job working for one of the main brokerage firms in Europe, in Monaco. But again, that sounds glamorous, but in reality, when you're the lowest guy in the totem pole, you're like literally just filing things on computers and making huge lists, and it's not sexy work, but the act of doing the grunt work, you learn so much, and your base is built that you built the rest of your career on. And each job was only presented to me because of the work I did at the previous job.
So did you work as a deckhand on board?
I did, yeah. I was a captain in my, I think I was 21 when I can't remember, 21 I think, whenever I first had my first captain's license. But then when I went to work on big boats, I was a deckhand.
Yeah, and then you worked as a broker, and then that kind of worked into other areas. So it sounds like you also got to live all over the world, or at least in a few places around the world. So talk a little bit about that experience in terms of the industry and what that opened up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that exposing yourself to different cultures and different places to live is just a widening way to widen your perspective. But I'm a Florida boy in the end, so I've lived in Monaco and spent a lot of time in Europe, in Northern Europe and Germany and the Netherlands, and traveled extensively around the world. But in the end, I love it here. I love being near the ocean.
All right, Tim. So Lurssen, beautiful yachts, beautiful design, but there's, I'm sure, a process that goes into the build from the moment somebody, decides that they're looking to build a yacht all the way till it's delivered on the face dock here. So let's walk through us a little bit what that process looks like. How does that start? How does the customer start to engage with you to begin that build?
Yeah, so every customer and every project is different. So it doesn't always look exactly the same. But we're a custom yacht builder, so every project we do is different in terms of design and features. So it typically starts with engagement with the client themselves, or with their team, with their designers, with their captain, with their broker, the owner's rep. And we will start by putting together a briefing of what are the features they want to see. Sometimes they'll be working with a designer right from the beginning. Sometimes we bring in a designer later on after the general arrangement plan is fairly established. But at a certain point, we all feel like that's settled. And at that point, we'll start working on a specification together with the owner's team. We'll make sure the price is accepted. We'll put together a price and see if that works. And if that is, then the attorneys get involved and we work out contracts, which is also a process because it's a long commitment. Around that time, we can sign a contract and start building the boat.
So you're saying that process, you're looking at maybe 2 years before you even start to lay the hull of a vessel on a new build.
On average, from first contact with a client to signing a contract is between 1 and 2 years. Typically, it's a long process. Typically, someone who's building a yacht with Lurssen, it's not their first yacht, right? They've already owned a few yachts, so they're not in a huge rush. Everybody does care about the time, but they really want to make sure all the decisions and all the thought is all work for the first.
Absolutely.
And then from signing a contract, typically it's around a year before we actually lay the keel. And then it can be a 3-4 year process, depending on the size of the vessel, from there to building the hull and the superstructure, putting all the machinery in, and then doing all the fit out and which is painting and putting teak in, putting the interior in, putting the glass in, all those things that you think of that really makes it a yacht, not just a ship.
Working in the shipbuilding space and knowing what, some of the trends and things like that, what are some of the trends that you see coming up in the next 3 to 5 years in the builds that are happening in the Lurssen yard?
The boats that we're building now, they are always evolving, and a lot of the things that you see tends to follow with each vessel, right? You've seen over the last years this emphasis on beach clubs and connectivity to the sea, connectivity into being active. I think yacht owners of the past more went to like on board the vessel and spent a lot of times being passive, like eating and sitting around. Now people are more into like, let's be active. So what are the water sports, diving and fishing and whatever it is. You see a lot of emphasis on innovation. In yachting, we're able, from our position, to be progressive in the way we approach shipbuilding more so than, let's say, the commercial space. The reason for it is because we're not having to deliver something that's proven like in a commercial vessel or in a military vessel. So there's a lot of risk taking, and so we're building vessels that are with new ways of creating power. We're building 2 vessels with fuel cells, which is really creative. We're working on a potential vessel that could potentially be nuclear powered. And you don't see those innovations being applied to other places in the maritime world yet because they're not proven. But in the yacht, it's kind of cool because we can be the testing ground. You keep on seeing emphasis on more outside space, which is rather an interesting evolution for very large boats. And you see people using their boats not just in the milk run, just the Caribbean and Mediterranean. We see boats being built really purposely for going around the world and being very active and offering all the same experience in remote areas. So it's about reliability, having a lot of storage on board for toys and tenders and spares and so forth. So those are some of the things we're seeing.
Absolutely. The creativity that we're seeing, I think, in the yachts that are being built nowadays is really cool.